If any philosopher should be described as unusual, then Nietzsche would be one of the first names that would come to mind. The German philosopher, cultural critic, composer, poet, and philologist, whose work shook the foundations of human society in many aspects, including culture, religion, philosophy, literature, and psychology, was one of the main precursors of existentialism. His objective was to pave the way for the Superman, a superior and absolutely free man. Not only were his teachings extraordinary, but also his life, which was full of suffering on an emotional and physical level. Even professionally, he lived much of his life as a shadow wandering through the Alps, where he wrote some of the most magnificent books the world has ever seen. Sadly, he did not receive much recognition and could not sell much of his work. At the age of 44, he collapsed. He never recovered from that tragedy, and this collapse ended his life 11 years later. However, despite his tragic life, he achieved something extraordinary through his work, and the world will always study the work of a man who challenged existing paradigms and led human thought to higher peaks. Nietzsche, despite being a controversial and often misunderstood philosopher, through his teachings, wanted people to see the great height of their extraordinary potential and break the chains that kept them prisoners to conquer their true freedom. Nietzsche always captivated his readers with his way of writing. He was genuine, brief, direct, and never liked to follow a system. He considered himself a revolutionary figure, writing for the next generations, who he believed could understand him better. He never liked to explain himself to the masses by concentrating on what was really important, what is true and essential, without worrying whether his books would sell or not, and without compromising himself to gain something. Nietzsche became an extraordinary philosopher. By following his example, we too can learn to worry less about the mundane and learn to focus on what is really important in our lives. We can also become essentialists by decluttering our lives to make room for what is essential. For example, we can start decluttering our house by throwing away what we don't need, everything we bought just to impress others. But people who do not represent us in the same way, we can get rid of people in our lives who do not contribute anything to us. We can abandon careers that do not represent us, that do not make us grow in the sense in which we want to grow professionally. Instead, we must direct our focus to what is truly essential. For example, our family. Do not do things in life to impress people, but do things that are essential to you, that represent who you really are. An essentialist, from the point of view of a child, is an individual with high self-esteem, with high objectives and priorities. As Nietzsche said, "I looked for great human beings, but all I found were the monkeys of their ideals." In his book The Twilight of the Idols, Nietzsche carries out what he calls philosophy with a hammer, hitting the secret doors of human psychology, taking out all idols, and finding what is truly authentic and real. He discovered that most people follow a herd mentality, running away from their true selves. Consequently, very few people are real, authentic, and honest with themselves because being authentic requires effort and courage. Nietzsche's teachings are about owning oneself and becoming free. Finding ourselves is the true purpose of our existence. To build the muscle of authenticity, to have the courage to be yourself, you can start with simple things. Start by saying no to some of the demands from members of your close circle, such as family and friends, when they ask you to do something you don't agree with or that you consider unfair or unhelpful. Start being authentic in all areas of your life. Be honest with yourself and own the person you really are. By doing this, you will also start new projects in life that can reflect the real you, such as starting new hobbies or confronting people you don't agree with. Sometimes being authentic, having the ability to own yourself, is having the courage to start a fight to regain your freedom. You should always pursue wisdom, not information. A philosopher always extrapolates from his observations of other different fields of knowledge, from observing other people's lives, creating his own concepts of what is truly important and real. Although, at the same time, at first, he was a scholar, an academic with a vast and deep knowledge of ancient Greece, and a professor at Basel, Nietzsche shed this layer of himself, learning to focus on only one part of the wisdom of the ancient Greeks, that part of him interested and considered valuable. Knowledge is acquired through learning and education, while wisdom is obtained from everyday experiences and is a state of being wise. Nietzsche believed that knowledge instills a slave mentality. Today, with so much knowledge at our disposal, many of us get stuck in a repetitive lifestyle. We stop reflecting on why we do the things we do and simply follow current trends without reflecting on the implications of our actions. Instead of developing ourselves by becoming wiser, people absorb information without processing it. We really become slaves to our environment, especially in this age of technology, when we can have any type of information at our fingertips. It is very difficult to be selective. One way to do this is to take the time to understand yourself. Decide who you are and what you want to do in life, then make a list of what kind of knowledge you need to acquire or what interests you most. And from there, Nietzsche teaches us that those who do not know how to put their will into things at least put meaning into them. That is, They have faith that a will is already in things. Nietzsche strongly attacked everything that meant giving people the so-called peace of mind, false stories, and the promise of a false paradise if people obeyed certain rituals. An example of this is religion. Nietzsche observed that religion often declared people free so that they could be judged for their sins and, therefore, believed that this type of freedom was illusory since it had more to do with responsibility and less to do with a true will to achieve things. Nietzsche distanced himself from worldviews such as religion, which, in his opinion, uses faith to keep people under control and therefore control them. He attempted to find a new type of freedom, which is a freedom from any repressive system such as political or religious systems. He learned to put his will into things. He created his own values after a total reconsideration of all values, thus achieving an extraordinary level of mastery in philosophy. Following his example, we can also learn to let go of what keeps us captive or what makes us act based on false beliefs and stories. This does not necessarily mean religion. There can be a variety of secondary beliefs. It can mean beliefs like good always triumphs over evil, there is a reason for everything, or everyone has a soulmate. For example, if you believe that good always triumphs over evil and you are in a situation where something terrible has been done, like having your money stolen, you could choose to forget it, trusting that there is an invisible God who is watching over you and who will do justice in the end by punishing the criminal. But if you do not let this belief blind you, then you would immediately report the theft to the police, using any legal means to take justice for yourself. These types of beliefs can provide peace of mind to some, but this does not necessarily make them true. We can choose to believe in them, but we should not act based on them. First, we need to learn to put our will into things to face the reality in front of us, such as good and bad. Our actions and thoughts must be based on reality if we want to create an extraordinary life for ourselves. Amor fati, translated as love for one's destiny, revolves around accepting your own destiny with open arms. Nietzsche did not believe in the concept of free will, but he did believe in a will to affirm life as it is. Loving your destiny does not mean living a passive life, accepting whatever is done to you. It means looking at your existence with deep understanding and acceptance. Evil means the willingness to relive your life, the same life, over and over again. It means allowing yourself to manifest your true free self in life. It means following your passions and living a life according to your personality. We are not free to choose in what country we were born, in what family, or what color skin we have. But we are free to feel good in our skin, to accept reality as it is, and to make the most of everything that life gives us. The more we love who we are and our destiny, with the good and the bad, the more aware of life we become, the more fully we experience it. Many of us spend most of our time worrying about our future or regretting our past for all the things we did wrong and that could have been corrected. Regretting our shortcomings and faults can lead to stress and depression. You need to accept that things are not always rosy. Accept death and pain as part of life. Accept that you are not always a winner, that the purpose of your life is not your happiness, but it is a constant process of self-discovery. Only through this acceptance will your mind be able to find solutions to deal with the problems in your life. In order to have this calm state of mind, you can practice some exercises like meditation. Learn to be aware of your body, your emotions, your life as it is. All over the world, people hide truths in great secrecy, perhaps so as not to disturb their immediate surroundings, but a fact should not be obscured. Rather, it should be spoken as it is. Nietzsche's life is a testimony that the world values those who tell the truth and express their thoughts. As one of the most conflictive philosophers, the testament of his well-known God does not exist caused a revolt. Nietzsche never shied away from speaking his truth, no matter how shocking this truth was. To be extraordinary is to have the courage to express your most extraordinary truths. For him, the truth is not a collective concept, it is more related to your individual perspective. Therefore, the truth comes from your authenticity. Your interpretation of the world is the strongest truth you have. If you don't speak your truth, it means you sabotage yourself, you denigrate your unique perspective on life. Plus, speaking the truth is healthy for any relationship. If you keep secrets from someone close to you, these secrets will become poisonous and could even destroy that relationship. But the greatest danger lies in the relationship with yourself. For example, if you are not sincere with yourself, you could convince yourself that you are religious when in reality, you could be an atheist. If you declare your religion only to not bother your family and not because it is your true belief, then you are poisoning yourself and may not have meaningful relationships with your family because you are not acting from your true inner core. No matter how different your perspective on reality is, you need to develop the courage to speak your truth and live a life according to this truth. Nietzsche always emphasized learning from experience. He says that experience is the best teacher. If you are a rigid person, immersed in theoretical learning, you will never really develop on a personal level. Our German philosopher suggests that you should live your life in such a way that tests each idea on an experiential level. Also, it is not enough to identify the problems, You also have to find solutions for these problems, and solutions cannot be found without trying them in the real world. Finding solutions for human problems should be the fundamental responsibility of any branch of knowledge. In philosophy, Nietzsche discovers shocking truths that he arrived at by inspecting reality in depth, immersing himself in human psychology, and bringing his valuable findings to the surface. This teaching can be applied by anyone, no matter how theoretical the activity is. To have extraordinary achievements in your life, you need to be pragmatic. Try different strategies, evaluate them, see which one is most efficient or which one leads you to new discoveries. And last but not least, be dynamite. Nietzsche's philosophy focuses heavily on the idea of the Superman, a hypothetically extraordinary human being with superior psychological qualities. Nietzsche was undoubtedly a dynamite, demanding a total reconsideration of all values, paving the way for a future Superman. In his opinion, we humans are bridges to these extraordinary qualities of humanity. And being dynamite, Nietzsche was a great promoter of human cultural evolution towards said Superman. Although few of us can become such intellectual dynamites as he was, we can still try to model his example in our lives. For example, in the workplace, we can analyze the rules that govern our organization and team and propose new guidelines that could make the work much more efficient. We can also be dynamite through solitary work, building a business in our garage from scratch. No matter how small the scale we operate on, we can revolutionize the old ways of thinking and working, or question the customs and traditions by which human relationships work. Of course, being unconventional, revolutionary, or extraordinary has a price. However, it is still worth it if the community in which we live benefits from it, or even the world in general. To end, in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche wrote the following: "You must be ready to burn in your own flame. How could you be reborn if you have not first become ashes?" Remember to subscribe and hit the like button for more videos and to help us reach more people.